Okay, cheers. Sparkling water in my Hello Kitty Halloween glass that I got from my friends at Castle Blood this past Halloween. Okay, so number one, I did an entire review on The Strangers Chapter 3, and apparently my microphone died after the very first after the intro. So yeah, I am having to record this over again. But okay, I don't know, maybe things happen for a reason. Maybe it'll end up being better than what I originally recorded. So we're just gonna stay positive with that and just kind of keep rolling with it. But yeah, I just saw These Strangers Chapter 3 and I have thoughts on it. So the Strangers trilogy, it's kind of a remake slash reboot slash kind of expanding upon the original film from 2008, also called The Strangers, that starred Liv Tyler. This new trilogy actually first came out in, I think it was like 2024, I believe, Strangers Chapter 1, and then the remake, and then Strangers Chapter 2, and then Strangers Chapter 3. Now, this trilogy has been getting some, shall we say, mixed reviews, to say the least. I've seen some people that just thought it was okay. Some people, a lot of people actually, that like really just did not like it. And then of course I run into like a couple people that actually enjoyed it. I kind of fit somewhere in the middle. And just warning you, there might be some spoilers in this review of The Strangers Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3. So just warning you if you haven't seen any of these films yet. But the thing is, see, I kind of have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this trilogy. On the one hand, there are parts of it that I do think is very well done. And then there's parts of it that I'm just kind of like, yeah, that just kind of fell flat for me. And I've heard some reviewers actually say that this whole trilogy could have been done in one movie. And yeah, I mean, maybe that's possible. But the thing is, it's like, I do think that there is a way. I mean, obviously, yeah, there's a way to do a trilogy. There's a way to do a franchise, and to do it really well, and to keep each part of the trilogy, compelling, and sometimes even more compelling than the previous film. I think the X trilogy with Mia Goth is a very good example of that. I definitely love X, and then Pearl, and then Maxine. I thought that those were some really good films, and like each of them kind of stood out on their own in a way, but of course it was, about the same people, about the same person, and then they were all like, intertwined. You can see how those stories, were woven together and basically came together to make a really good trilogy. Now, with the Strangers trilogy, from what I understand, they shot all three films at once as if it were just one big film. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I did hear that from a couple of sources, a couple other people that reviewed it on YouTube. And if that's the case, I can understand and see why some people thought that, okay, it could have just been one big film. And there were also parts in all three of the movies that I thought were a little bit too dragged out, and you can tell they were trying to create some tension with it, but it just didn't happen. And it was kind of obvious that they were trying to like drag it out to make it three films. Okay, so with The Strangers Chapter 1, we first met Maya and her boyfriend, fiance, and they're on a road trip, and they end up in this very remote kind of backwoods-ish town, and they end up having to stay the night in this cabin that's pretty back in the woods, and they are stalked and terrorized by three masked strangers, and that basically terrorize them throughout the night. And they are trapped inside the cabin. There's really nowhere to run. And the Strangers Chapter 1 ends with Maya being the survivor. Now, the Strangers Chapter 1, you can say, is the one that's the remake of the 2008 film with Liv Tyler. Now, when it comes to how I felt about The Strangers Chapter 1, I don't think it had the same type of tension that the 2008 film had. The 2008 film, I thought, did a much better job at really just building up the tension up to the point where the strangers revealed themselves and reveal the reason why they are stalking that particular couple. And because a lot of people already are familiar with the Liv Tyler film from 2008, I thought that if they were going to do a remake of that particular The Strangers movie, like The Strangers Chapter 1, maybe do something like a little bit different with it, which I think is what they were trying to do. But just the way they went about it, I don't think it obviously didn't really appeal to a lot of people. And it wasn't, and I can understand, like I said, I can understand why some people thought that the whole thing could have been done in one movie. Now, The Strangers Chapter 2, I actually thought had some good potential. I actually thought, was kind of a nice contrast to The Strangers Chapter 1, where you can tell they were kind of trying to do the whole like middle of nowhere, which I love middle of nowhere movies, which is why I wanted to, see these Strangers films. I've said before, I love middle of nowhere movies, but they were trying to do this little middle of nowhere movie and really kind of have this slow burn tension build up before the big reveal, which, if done, the right way, can actually be a phenomenal film. But I just felt like for some reason, the slow burn just really kind of lacked tension. And I thought they kind of made up for it in The Strangers Chapter 2. Now, with The Strangers Chapter 2, I know a lot of people, especially in YouTube reviews and such, were saying that it was actually worse than The Strangers Chapter 1, which I actually disagreed with. I actually thought that The Strangers Chapter 2 actually gave it the potential to really turn into something cool. Like, I thought, like, The Strangers Chapter 2 was kind of like that threshold where, okay, this can either go in a really good direction or it could just completely crash and burn and fall flat. And couple things that I liked about The Strangers Chapter 2 was that it was more action because we saw Maya in the hospital recovering from her injuries sustained from the events in The Strangers Chapter 1. And, and then the masked strangers, they find her in the hospital, and now she's trying to escape from the hospital with her injuries still there. And then survive in the wilderness. And it was actually, I thought it was a pretty cool movie. And was it perfect? No. Was it a masterpiece? No. Were there a couple of things that I was just like, oh, come on, yeah, absolutely. But I did think that it was a step up from The Strangers Chapter 1. And I like that it was more action-packed, even though I do appreciate like a good kind of like slow build-up movie. I appreciated the fact that they did try to do like something a little different with it. I liked, I liked some of where they seemed to be going with some of the town's history and background, as well as, you know, even kind of delving a little bit into the killers and why they do some things, why they're doing the things that they do, and, you know, and how everything in that town and the events of that film are all connected. So yeah, I kind of disagreed with a lot of the reviews saying, like, you know, that it was, you know, worse than The Strangers Chapter 1, because I actually I liked Chapter 2 better. And it made me interested, especially what they were hinting at the end of Chapter 2. It made me interested to, just feel like, okay, you know, wonder where they're going with this in Chapter 3. You know, I'll give it a chance and see, you know, where they go with this, because I was interested enough in finding out. Okay, so with that all said, on to The Strangers Chapter 3. And yeah, I have some thoughts on it. Okay, so The Strangers Chapter 3. We pick up with Maya's story, but not really. Because at the very beginning, we have this scene set up, and it actually takes place 3 years prior to the events of the Strangers films, and I really, it's like I could see the point of it, but yet I couldn't, if that makes sense. So the very first scene, we see this girl checking into a motel. It's like I said, 3 years prior to the events in the Strangers films. And, you know, and like I said, it's a cool scene. It's, you know, it's well done. And that's one thing that I do have, you know, positive to say about The Strangers Chapter 3 is that they had some really good settings, really good, just really good atmosphere, I thought, and some really good candle shots. Yeah, camera shots, camera shots and angles, which, like I said, I thought that those parts of the films were actually really, really cool. But this one scene in particular, I mean, it was a cool scene. And I kind of get where they were trying to go with it, because after, you know, the events of the scenes happened, they had this caption on the screen, which was the definition of a serial killer as somebody who selects, you know, multiple killings, and they're all, like, you know, just random strangers. And I think what they were trying to go for is the fact that this was just this random girl, and, you know, and she kind of had nothing to do with the rest of the film. She was just this random girl who was just selected and, you know, and killed, and they, you know, the masked killers, they did away with her. And again, I kind of understand where they were going with that, but I don't know. I think a scene like that would have been better at the maybe at the beginning of Chapter 1, and then did that to kind of kick off the movie. But I didn't quite get I guess it would have made more sense if it took place, like, during the actual time of the Strangers, you know, verse, like during that specific time frame. But it's like, I didn't see what the point was for setting it 3 years prior to the events. Unless you were going to, you know, do something later to tie it all together. And unless I totally missed it, you know, they really, it's like that didn't happen. So it was just a very random scene at the beginning. And then they have the opening credits, and then we get back into Maya's story and everything. But the thing is, it's like, I thought The Strangers 3 had a lot. It had potential. It had potential to be like a pretty decent ending to the trilogy, assuming that they're just going to end this as a trilogy. But to me, it was kind of all over the place. Like there were all these time jumps and flashbacks, and I like time jumps and flashbacks. I thought it was very well done. Like say in the movie like The Housemaid. That movie was very well done. There was a lot of, back and forth, like flashbacks, especially when we got into the middle of the movie toward the end. I thought it was very well done the way The Housemaid handled it, but I wasn't really. Again, like it was nice to see some of the, some of like the masked killers, like the Strangers' backstory. It was it was cool to kind of delve into the history of the town and, the sheriff, because that's another, the sheriff disappointed me so much. I thought he's another one who I thought had a lot of like potential to be a really cool kind of antagonist character in The Strangers Chapter 2. But, and it's not really the actor's fault. I mean, he did a decent job, but it was just the way it was all presented, because you shouldn't be more annoyed with your villains than you are kind of freaked out by them and thinking, oh gosh, that's messed up. No, like that's the thing. I found myself being more annoyed with the villains than anything else. And, and in a horror film, that's like, I mean, unless it's a horror comedy, you're it's like, I don't think that that's really their intention. But yeah, I think, again, I think potential is the right word for The Strangers 3. It had potential to actually be a decent film. But to me, what it felt like, it was like they were trying to take all the action that was packed into The Strangers Chapter 2 and accompany that with the kind of slow burn and build up of The Strangers Chapter 1, but somehow they couldn't really make it meet in the middle and mesh together. And again, it was, and, the positives of this film, like I said, the atmosphere, just the settings, the camera angles, I mean, and the actors, I thought did pretty well. I thought the overall production was, was really, it was very visually nice. It was very visually cool to look at. But just the overall execution of it didn't really create the tension that I think they were trying to create in some of the scenes. And even just like the big reveal and stuff at the end, it was like, okay, I guess that's kind of cool, but again, it wasn't like I was just sitting on the edge of my seat with it. So do I think people should go? Go see it. If you're like, especially if you've already seen Chapter 1 and 2, and you want to see how it ends, go see Chapter 3. Or if you want to just see some really cool scenery, some cool camera angles, just stuff, that was kind of cool looking on the production end. Yeah, absolutely. Go see it. But I would also understand if, like, say, you didn't want to pay money to see it, especially if you had seen like Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, and maybe just wanted to wait for it to come out on streaming. But those are my thoughts on The Strangers Chapter 3. And yeah, like some I liked some of the woods shots. I liked, the motel shots, the diner shots. They had like a really cool scene too, where they, it was almost like down in like some type of really cool underground church, underground catacomb, an old church scene as well that I thought was very well shot. And that's the thing, I keep saying potential, but that's exactly how I feel. Like, I thought it had really, really good potential, but a lot of it just unfortunately kind of fell a little flat. And I don't think at least didn't really have the effect on me that I think, they might have been going for. But what did you think of the Strangers Chapter 3? And what did you think of the whole Strangers trilogy? Have you seen it? Did you like it, not like it? Or are you kind of sort of in the middle like me? I mean, but yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And what movies are you going to see this year? I'd love to hear about that too. And but thank you so much for watching. And I will see you in the next video. And yes, take care, stay spooky, and stay fierce, because we are in the year of the fire horse. And I will see you next time. But I'd love to hear about what you thought about The Strangers Chapter 3 if you saw it. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.